My name is Jessica Langford. I'm 29 years old, and I built something no one in my family thought I could, an independent investment firm headquartered in downtown Boston. We manage over $30 million in regional portfolios with a focus on underrepresented small business clients. Quiet growth, conservative risk, zero flash. That's how I like it. I live alone in a one-bedroom unit on the 27th floor of a high-rise in Back Bay. The view stretches across the Charles just far enough from the river's edge to feel detached from the world below. That's the way I've kept most things since I moved here 5 years ago. Clean lines, cold light, and silence that doesn't demand anything from me. The morning the envelope arrived, Boston was cold. Not blizzard cold, just enough to turn the wind into something sharp. I had left the window open a crack overnight out of habit. When I got up, the air in the kitchen felt brisk but not unpleasant. I moved through my usual rhythm grind. The beans power up the espresso machine, open the blinds halfway. My laptop rested where I'd left it the night before, still in sleep mode, and the firm's Slack notifications blinked silently in the corner of the screen. At exactly 9:12 a.m., the buzzer rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. The doorman said a courier was at the front desk with a delivery requiring my signature. I told him to send it up. It was a slim cardboard envelope, heavy but not bulky. No label, just my full name printed in clean serif font and a return address from a Cambridge legal office I didn't recognize. My name on the outside was enough to tell me it wasn't junk. I didn't open it right away. I left it on the table while I cleaned up the coffee grounds and rinsed my cup. It sat beside my phone like a sleeping animal, quiet but alive. I finally sat down, slipped my finger under the adhesive flap, and opened the top. Inside a stack of papers neatly clipped and a short typed cover letter. I didn't read the letter first. Instead, my eyes caught a familiar address. 43 North Carver Street, Cambridge, the Brownstone. My stomach tightened, not sharply, but with that dull ache you get before a migraine. I flipped through the first few pages. The top sheet was a deed of trust. Below it, a warranty deed. Then a copy of a mortgage agreement, complete with a digital signature that claimed to be mine. Jessica Marie Langford. The font looked like mine. The flow of the letters mimicked how I signed tax forms, but I hadn't signed this. Not 2 years ago, not ever. I read it again slower this time. The property had been refinanced 6 months earlier. The trust had been transferred jointly to Jessica M. Langford and Tyler D. Langford, my younger brother Tyler, who hadn't held a full-time job since 2018. Tyler, whose digital sports media startup was technically a podcast hosted from his girlfriend's spare room. I hadn't spoken to Tyler in 3 years. The last time was over email. He had asked if he could borrow my name to help him secure a commercial lease, and I'd said no. Firmly, directly. No soft edges. After that, I stopped hearing from him. Seeing his name now next to mine printed on legal property documents was like hearing a whisper in a locked room. My first reaction wasn't even anger. It was that strange, slow chill when you realize something's been happening without you, but with your name all over it. I read the cover letter next. The tone was bland formal. The attorney, someone named Walter Blake, claimed to be representing the Langford Family Trust in connection with the Cambridge property. He encouraged me to reach out if I had any questions regarding the refinancing terms or title updates. Refinancing terms. My name, my fake signature. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the river curved under the bridge like it always did. Cars moved slowly. I could see a woman in a gray coat walking a dog. The world hadn't changed, but something inside me had shifted almost imperceptibly. I wasn't shocked. That's the thing. Maybe I should have been. But when you've spent most of your life being the dependable one, you learn to expect that dependability will eventually be treated like permission. Like silence means agreement, like not asking for help means you must not need protection. I'd helped with the brownstone once 3 years ago during the first round of renovations. My parents had asked if I could front some capital while they waited for equity from a condo sale to clear. I agreed to transfer $24,000 to cover permits and structural assessments. I was told it was temporary. The money was never returned. I assumed they'd taken the house on themselves afterward. I let it go. I hadn't asked about it since I certainly never gave permission for my name to be added to any deed or mortgage. And yet, here it was. My name. My forged signature. My credit risk quietly tethered to a property I hadn't stepped inside since I was 26. I turned from the window and went back to the table. I set the envelope down carefully and took out my phone. No missed calls, no texts from my parents. I opened a browser tab and typed in the attorney's name, Blake and Weaver LLP Trusts Estates Family Mediation. I found the main line and added it to my contact list but didn't dial. Instead, I opened another window and logged into my credit monitoring account. I began to scan for irregularities, keyword matches, loan applications. My hands didn't shake. I didn't pace the room. I didn't even speak. But I knew what this meant. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was an operation. And I wasn't going to let it unfold quietly. Not this time. I clicked Request Credit Freeze and entered my credentials. Then I opened a blank document. Title Brownstone Unauthorized Use. First line received March 6th. Forged deed signature attached. I would give it a name because things with names don't disappear. They get investigated. And I had every intention of seeing this through. People assume that family favoritism is loud obvious in the way gifts are handed out or names are called at dinner. But in my case, it was quiet, clean, consistent. The kind of pattern you don't realize is forming until you're too old to pretend it isn't. My brother Tyler is 3 years younger than me. From the moment he was born, the house adjusted around him. I don't remember resenting him as a child. He was just there. He cried often, got ear infections made, messes. I learned to stay out of the way. I thought it was temporary. By the time I was 12, I was already doing my own laundry and making sure my school forms were signed. Tyler still had to be reminded to brush his teeth. When I turned 14, I asked for a graphing calculator for advanced algebra. My dad said I'd have to wait until Christmas. I ended up borrowing a cracked one from the school library that gave out static shocks when the battery was low. That same year, Tyler got a gaming console for his birthday. It was expensive, top of the line. I remember unboxing it with him, his hands sticky with cake while I held the instructions because he couldn't figure out how to plug it in. My mom took a photo I wasn't in it. She told me to move so the box would be visible. Later that week, I got a B+ in biology, and my mom said, "That's fine. You're better in math anyway." She didn't look up from folding Tyler's laundry. In high school, I joined Track-Took AP classes and applied for a part-time job at the public library. My dad said it was good practice for managing time. Tyler joined the school newspaper but forgot to attend meetings. When he missed a deadline, the teacher called home. My mother stayed up all night helping him finish the article. I don't think they ever asked why I never brought friends over, or why I preferred sitting alone on the back porch with a book instead of inside watching movies. I didn't want to be praised. I just wanted to be visible. When I was accepted into Boston State University, I left the letter on the kitchen counter with the mail. My mom saw it, I know she did. She moved it to the fridge, then under a pile of coupons. She never said anything. A week later, she sat me down and said they could only help with part of the tuition and that I should apply for financial aid. "We know you'll figure it out," she added, smiling. "You've always been strong." That line stayed with me longer than the letter itself. Tyler barely scraped through his senior year. He failed 2 math courses but was accepted into a local community college. My parents threw a party. There were balloons in the backyard and catered food. My aunt flew in from New Jersey. I sat in the living room with a paper plate and a plastic fork listening to Tyler talk about studying film. 2 months into his first semester, he dropped out. No one got angry. My dad told him to take his time. College isn't for everyone. When I was struggling to afford textbooks, I emailed my dad to ask if they could help with a few $100s. He called me back, voice polite, and said, "We're trying to help Tyler get back on his feet. Maybe next semester." So I got another job overnight stocking at a pharmacy and bought used books with bent corners and someone else's notes in the margins. I graduated debt-free only because I worked nonstop and skipped anything that cost money. No spring breaks, no club memberships, no internships without pay. I interned at a commercial real estate firm during the summer, took night classes in business analytics, and started mapping out my 5-year plan in a $3 spiral notebook I kept under my bed. Tyler by then was trying to get something off the ground. It was a travel vlog, then it was freelance photography, then it was designing custom t-shirts. Each time he failed, my parents said, "At least he's trying." They'd Venmo him, rent money, pay for equipment, help him move apartments. I watched quietly. The year I launched Clary Invest, my own investment advisory firm, I emailed my parents a short announcement. My mother wrote back, "That's great, honey. Just don't overwork yourself." A month later, Tyler's podcast got a sponsor, and my dad sent an all-caps text to the family group chat. "Proud moment, Tyler making big moves." No one mentioned my business again. I never asked them for help after that. Not for the office space, not for legal setup, not for the $18,000 I put into marketing and client acquisition. I built my client base slowly, one relationship at a time, spending weekends reading through tax legislation updates and risk models. I never told them when I signed my first $500,000 account or when I was featured in a regional finance digest. The last real conversation I had with my mother was about a year ago. She said, "I just wish you'd check in more. We don't know what's going on with you half the time." I said, "That's because no one ever asked." She didn't respond, just sighed. "You're strong, Jess. We never worry about you." And that's the truth of it. They never worried because they never wondered. Because I was easy. Because I didn't break. Because I never made noise when they handed the flashlight to Tyler and asked me to watch the batteries. Being invisible in a family doesn't mean you're forgotten, it just means your usefulness has become part of the furniture. Assumed, expected, undervalued. But I remember it all. The cracked calculator, the unopened college letter, the job I worked in silence while Tyler got a second chance. And now, seeing my name forged on that deed, I finally understand something that should have been obvious long ago. They didn't just overlook me. They counted on me never looking back. I spend the next hour combing through every page in the envelope, reading each document slowly, then again, faster, then slower. Once more, looking for a detail I might have missed. The signature appears 3 times each, digital, each dated 6 to 18 months apart. On one of the forms, it includes my middle name, which I haven't used on legal paperwork since forming my LLC. It's not just my name on a property deed, it's my name connected to an asset-backed loan. At first, I assumed they forged my signature just to move the house into Tyler's name. That alone would be enough to press charges. But I dig deeper. Something doesn't sit right. The mortgage document includes a notation for business guarantee extension. I pause at those words. It doesn't make sense unless... I open my laptop and pull up the Massachusetts Secretary of State's business portal. I search for Clary Invest Capital. My company fully incorporated in my name, independently funded, no external co-signers or partners. There it is, a lien notice filed 5 months ago. Secured against future revenue projections under Langford-owned assets. I close my eyes and take a breath. That's not just theft, that's exposure. My personal name was used without my consent to extend a line of credit collateralized against the projected growth of Clary Invest. They didn't just sign me onto a house. They gambled with the foundation of everything I've built. I call the Cambridge Registrar's office next. The woman on the other end is polite, firm, and unable to give full details without a notarized inquiry. But when I give her the deed ID and my name, there's a pause on her end. "Yes," she says. "That property was refinanced through a multi-party trust agreement. One moment, please. I can confirm your name appears on the filing as a primary stakeholder." I hang up and sit still for a full minute. Outside, the traffic continues. Someone below honks twice, followed by a bicycle bell. The world does not stop, but my world has. Because this isn't an accident. My mother's voice echoes from a memory years back when they asked me to front some funds for the renovation fund. "It's just a bridge," she had said. "You're the only one stable enough to help." She made it sound like a compliment, and I, still eager for some fragment of connection, agreed to send the money with no timeline, no terms. $24,000. Now I see the trail of that mistake extending forward through forged signatures, LLC misuse, and misappropriated authority. I pull up my business banking dashboard next. I scan for anomalies. Odd wire transfers, sudden influxes or withdrawals, misfiled charges. Nothing stands out immediately, but I dig into the tax ID trail. A second EIN close to mine, off by 1 digit, was listed on the lien paperwork. Someone cloned my structure. I try to remain calm, but my fingers curl slightly against the trackpad. I check the ownership listing on the brownstone again. Tyler is living there. A quick search pulls up his girlfriend's Instagram, where a story shows the kitchen, my family's voices audible in the background. A soft caption reads, "Home Sweet Home." The kitchen is staged with gold fixtures, a backsplash I once suggested to my mother on a holiday call years ago. I've never set foot inside that finished house. Not once. And yet I'm legally tied to it, tied to the debt it carries and to the risks it poses. If the loan defaults, I carry the fallout. If Tyler misses a payment, Clarion Vest could be flagged. If the lien crosses over into civil court, I may need to disclose financial involvement to investors. I lean back in my chair, watching the cursor blink on my notes page. I write a new heading, "Immediate Actions." Then I open another browser tab and draft a message to my firm's compliance consultant. I don't give details. Not yet. I ask for a quiet audit, internal only, just to ensure no exposed threads are overlooked. I also request a copy of our commercial insurance policy just in case. Then I start a draft email to a friend from law school who now works in real estate litigation. And just before I hit save, I stop. Because beneath the business strategy, the spreadsheet calm, and the crisis containment, I feel something else rise. Grief. Not rage. Not panic. Just that slow, low ache of understanding that this wasn't a mistake. It was a plan, carried out by people who share my last name. People who called me independent as a way of washing their hands. Who trusted that I'd never notice or never challenge or more likely never care enough to make it uncomfortable. They assumed silence meant safety, that my absence meant permission. And now they've tied my name to something I didn't sign, to a house I never entered, to a business risk I never agreed to. This isn't just a legal problem. It's a breach of the one boundary I never said out loud because I thought I didn't have to. Don't touch what I built. And yet here we are. I close the draft and reopen the documents from the envelope. I zoom in on my signature. Then I pull up my actual digital signature from a recent client contract. I open both side by side. At first glance, they're nearly identical, but mine flows slightly faster. The J in Jessica loops tighter. The spacing between Langford and Jessica is 2 characters longer in the forgery. Someone knew what they were doing, but not well enough. I click Save As and rename the file Forgery Primary Evidence. Then I copy both into a secure folder marked Legal Response. I reach for my keys without thinking, slipping them into my coat pocket. I pause when I realize I don't even have a key to that house. And yet, it may be the most dangerous place I've ever been tied to, and the most important line I'll ever draw. Because if they're willing to steal your name to build their version of home, you'd better be ready to burn the foundation to save your own. The last time I walked into my parents' house as their daughter was Thanksgiving 2020. It had snowed lightly that morning, the kind of snow that doesn't stick but leaves a film of white dust across rooftops and grass. My windshield was half frozen and I hadn't planned to go, but I went anyway. I had paid the $8,000 furnace bill that October when my mother called saying the heat had gone out. I didn't hesitate. I just wired the money from my savings account and scheduled the repair. A part of me thought maybe this year would be different. I parked 2 houses down since the driveway was full. Tyler's car was there, his girlfriend's a few others I didn't recognize. I stood outside the door for a second, brushing the slush off my coat, listening to the hum of voices and the muffled clink of cutlery. Laughter rose in short bursts. Warmth poured through the windows framed by holiday garland. I rang the doorbell. My mother answered wearing an apron with gold stitching and lipstick 1 shade darker than usual. She blinked like she hadn't expected to see me, even though I had RSVP'd the week before. "Oh, she said you're here. Come in, it's packed already." I stepped inside. The heat hit me fast, thick with the scent of sage butter and cloves. Candles burned on every flat surface. The dining room glowed with yellow light. Tyler stood near the fireplace in a blazer holding a glass of wine like a guest at someone else's party. He looked up, gave me a short nod. "Coat rack's full," my mom said over her shoulder. "Just toss it on the stairs." She led me toward the dining room, which had been extended with a folding table. 12 chairs surrounded it, each with cloth napkins and gold-trimmed place cards. I slowed when I didn't see my name. Instead, she turned toward the hallway that connected the kitchen to the mudroom. A small card table was set up with 2 mismatched folding chairs. A tray of desserts sat in the middle. "This is you," she said, placing a hand on the back of the metal chair. "We ran out of space, but it's cozy." I stared at the table. The carpet beneath it was frayed. A draft leaked in through the garage door. She must have seen my face because she added quickly, "We had to prioritize close family. You know how it is." I didn't answer. I nodded once and sat down. The main table was loud. Tyler's voice floated above the rest, punctuated with laughter. He was talking about the podcast again. Apparently, they had just landed a second-tier sponsor, some subscription coffee company. He gestured with his wine glass like a TED speaker. People clapped. My father beamed. No one asked about my business. No one mentioned the heating bill. Dinner was served. I was handed a plate in the hallway already portioned out. My chair creaked when I shifted. The hallway smelled faintly of mildew. I could hear the dishwasher humming in the next room. When the toast began, I set down my fork. Tyler stood with one hand on the chair behind him. "I just want to thank everyone," he said, smiling wide. "Mom, Dad, none of this would be possible without you. For believing in me even when the road got rough. You gave me the tools to chase my dream." People murmured, clinked glasses. No one turned to the hallway. I looked down at my plate. The food was good, perfect, even. My mother always knew how to season, but it sat there untouched, cooling on the ceramic. Halfway through dessert, a chocolate tart was placed beside me on a paper plate. No whipped cream. The napkin was one of the thin ones from the pantry drawer, folded carefully. I placed it on my lap and looked at the table again. They were laughing about something now. Someone spilled wine. My father joked that the carpet was already ruined. My mother threw her head back in laughter. I had seen this scene before, a dozen times, but something in it cracked this time. It was the way no one noticed I wasn't in the room, the way my name was never said, the way my contribution was always assumed but never acknowledged. I stood up quietly and stepped into the mudroom. I took my coat from the stairs, brushed off a speck of powdered sugar, and opened the side door without a sound. Outside, the wind had picked up snow tapped lightly against the porch rail. I stood on the step and listened. Inside, the clatter of forks, the shuffle of chairs, more laughter, the kind that comes when people feel safe, surrounded by familiarity. It was a sound I once longed to be part of. Now it felt like static behind glass. I walked to my car and sat in the driver's seat with my hands on the steering wheel, the cold leather waking my fingers. For the first time, I didn't feel invisible. I felt done. There was no anger, no bitterness. Just the hollow kind of finality that settles when a question has answered itself. I looked back at the house once. The window glowed gold. Someone passed by, maybe my mother, maybe a guest. No one noticed me. I pulled away from the curb and drove slowly down the quiet street. My breath fogged the windshield and the wipers moved in slow arcs. I didn't cry. Not that night. Not the next morning. Instead, I archived the family group thread and turned off message notifications. 3 weeks later, I deleted it altogether. Sometimes the thing that severs you isn't cruelty. It's the moment you realize you've been an extra in your own story. And once you know that you don't ask for a seat at the table, you build your own. Nora Wexler's office is exactly what I expected. Glass walls, matte black hardware, quiet recessed lighting, sleek impersonal. The kind of space designed to make you forget what street you're on or how long you've been waiting. It's mid-morning and Boston is still thawing from the early freeze, but inside everything hums at a steady climate-controlled pace. She doesn't shake my hand. We've worked together before and she knows I don't come here unless something's already in motion. "I got your message," she says, motioning me to the seat across from her. "You brought documentation." I open my bag and remove 2 manila folders. I slide the first one across the table. It's labeled what they filed. Inside, scanned deeds, The forged mortgage agreement screenshots of my name digitally signed onto property transfer forms I never authorized. The loan file includes a collateral extension referencing Langford Financial Holdings, a name close enough to Clarion Vest to confuse any mid-level underwriter. Mortgage fraud, I say. Likely wire fraud, possibly tax exposure depending on how they filed the assets. My signatures on 3 separate documents I didn't authorize. One of them is timestamped for the same week. I was in Seattle for a conference. I've got boarding passes and a hotel receipt. Nora doesn't flinch. She starts flipping through the pages, lips pressed in a line that only tightens as she reads. Tyler's name is on all of this, she says after a pause. So are your parents? I figured I reply it tracks. I slide the second folder toward her, what I know. She opens it. Inside a spreadsheet mapping out every interaction IP address logs from the forged signature platform matched against my verified digital signature from a client contract. The geolocation mismatch on the IP transaction data from the down payment wire sent from an account bearing my name but opened without my knowledge. And finally, a signed email from my mother to Tyler saying, Jess won't check into this. She never gets involved in real estate. It'll be fine. I wait for Nora to finish reading. I started pulling this together 2 months ago. I say I had a weird feeling after a tax form error showed up on my credit monitoring report, a 1098 linked to an address I don't own. Nora leans back, eyebrows raised. You've done half the investigative work already. I'm not interested in dragging this through court, I say. Not yet, I just want leverage. Enough to freeze the damage, reclaim my financial distance, and clear the exposure from Clarion Vest. She nods. You'll get it, this is airtight. We discuss next steps. She'll file a cease and desist within the week, a formal demand for full rescission of the documents under fraud statutes. If they fail to comply, we escalate to civil litigation. If Tyler or my parents contest the claim, we'll bring in expert analysis on digital forgery, every signature discrepancy, every unauthorized link. Nora taps her pen on the desk. The fact that they used a similar business name to yours isn't just shady, it's actionable. It implies intent. I knew that already. What Nora doesn't know and what I tell her next is that I've already purchased the brownstone. Not through Clarion Vest, not in my name. I used a third-party trust I set up 6 weeks ago the moment I saw the second mortgage attached to the house. Quietly, surgically, I bought out the lien, negotiated the sale behind closed doors, and took possession last Thursday. Technically, I say they don't even know yet. Title was transferred on the condition of silent escrow. Nora blinks. You're 3 steps ahead. Had to be, I answer. They assumed I'd react with emotion. I didn't. I reach into my bag and pull out a small envelope, the kind used for hand-delivered notices. It's stamped, sealed, and addressed to Tyler Langford. Inside is a formal eviction notice effective immediately, citing unauthorized tenancy and ownership fraud, delivered via courier that morning, scheduled to arrive on his doorstep by 11:00 a.m. By now it's been received. Nora watches me for a long moment, then exhales. I don't usually say this, she murmurs, but that's clean. Clinical even. I'm not interested in revenge, I say. Just boundaries. I stand to leave, gathering the folders into my bag, but I pause before zipping it. There's one more thing I'll need. I say I want a protective filing on all financial institutions. No one, not family, not shared accounts, can access or authorize anything under my name without verified 2-party approval. I want the locks changed on everything they ever touched. Done, Nora says I'll draft it today. As I leave the building, the wind cuts sharper than it did an hour ago. I don't mind. I walk slow, steady, gloves in my pocket, breath rising in quiet puffs. The world around me still spins. Taxis move down Boylston. A dog barks across the street. A bus sighs at the corner. But something has shifted. Not just because I took back the house. Not just because I'm holding the evidence. But because I did it without screaming. No threats, no pleading, no tears. They'll see the consequences in paperwork, not posture. In closing notices, not confrontation. They'll read my silence in legal filings, not phone calls. When Tyler finds the envelope, he'll probably text, maybe call, maybe send a panicked voice memo. But I won't answer. Because he made a choice when he signed my name and filed me into a future I didn't consent to. Now he'll read mine on a document with a timestamp, a case number, and a certified signature that says, "You assumed I was a fallback plan." But I was already writing the ending. The sale closes on a Thursday. It happens quietly the way most irreversible things do. A digital signature here, a wire confirmation there. And then, like a subtle shift in whether it's done, the brownstone is no longer mine or theirs. It belongs to a couple relocating from out of state, looking for their first home. The agency sends me a final balance sheet, clean and symmetrical, and an automated receipt with the words "Transfer Complete" printed in bold at the top. I stare at the screen for a moment longer than necessary, not because I doubt the decision, just because it's final. It's the last thread. By that afternoon, my name is cleared of any co-liability. The lien is dissolved. My business records are sealed again, untouched, untied. Clarion Vest is clean. No exposure, no confusion. I've built firewalls in places no one will ever find. Tyler tried to call 5 times over the weekend. I didn't answer. His voicemail was a mix of confusion and performance. I didn't know, I swear. If Mom said anything, I wasn't part of it. Then you blindsided us. Then you could have just talked to me. My mother emailed on Sunday. The subject line read, "You broke this family." I didn't open it. I never will. The envelope she sent arrived Tuesday morning. Pale pink, thick paper sealed with a sticker of a daisy. No return address. I recognized her handwriting. Tight-looped letters I've seen since childhood. I held it for a moment in the kitchen, then slid it back into a new envelope, resealed it, and wrote, "Return to sender," in block letters. Some things don't need to be read. Some stories already ended. I placed the envelope on the table next to another one, thicker, legal-sized, stamped, and addressed to my parents' house. Inside is a summary of the actions taken: deed reversal, trust, termination, fraud, withdrawal. No cover letter, no signature, just the raw facts, organized and irrefutable. I don't send it to punish them. I send it because it's over. At Clarion Vest, things run smoothly. The team is focused, numbers are steady, and 2 new clients are onboarding through referrals. My assistant Nadine pops her head into my office mid-morning and tells me a young analyst from our mentorship program is asking to meet with me. I agree. Her name is Sasha. She's 24, sharp and quiet in that way that means she's always thinking. She sits across from me with a spiral notebook and nervous energy. She starts off with questions about portfolio balance, but her voice shifts when she asks about resilience. How did you know how to keep going when no one really believed in what you were building? I pause before answering. It's not a rhetorical question for her, I can tell. So I don't give her a packaged response? I tell her the truth that I didn't always know, that for a long time I operated on inertia, not confidence, that it was easier to move than to wait for someone to look at me and say, "We see you." I tell her that sometimes clarity comes not in a breakthrough, but in a slow, accumulating silence you finally stop trying to interpret. When she leaves, she shakes my hand like it matters, like I gave her something more than strategy. And maybe I did. That afternoon, I sit by the office window with a mug of black tea and watch the slow shift of winter into spring. The city moves below, buses, sighing headlights flickering, the ordinary pulse of people who are not wondering if they are wanted. A news brief flashes across my screen, a regional award recognizing women founders. Reshaping Finance Clarion Vest is on the list. I close the window after reading it. I don't forward the article. I don't post it. Because validation isn't the same thing as peace. I've stopped looking for applause. I've started looking for rest. At home, the apartment is still quiet. No music, no background noise, just the sound of the radiator clicking once every few minutes. I set the sealed return envelope on the side table next to a candle I never light. Then I pick up a small stack of documents from my desk. They're from the new scholarship fund I created last month. The Langford Financial Resilience Grant Open to first-generation college students pursuing finance or entrepreneurship. I don't include a bio. I don't include a photo. Just a mission for those who build alone but never lose their vision. The funding came from the sale of the brownstone. The irony is not lost on me. A house I was never invited into now helps others walk through doors I once had to break open myself. I sign the first check and seal the envelope. This one I send. Later that night, I take out the original deed, the one with my forged signature. I saved a printed copy, not for evidence, just as a reminder. I place it in a file folder marked Resolved and tuck it into the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet. Then I sit back, close my laptop, and watch the lights outside shift from sharp white to soft yellow. Somewhere my parents are telling a story about what happened. Tyler is probably adjusting the version he tells. But none of those versions belong to me anymore. I didn't just walk away from their narrative. I rewrote mine. Without permission. Without apology. And without needing to prove anything to people who only remembered me when they needed a name to borrow. They may never understand what they lost. But I know exactly what I reclaimed. And that's more than enough. If you've ever felt like the extra piece in your own family, like the one who was always dependable but never celebrated, I want you to know this. It's not your fault. We grow up thinking family is something solid, something certain, that blood will always mean belonging, that if you show up, work hard, and stay quiet, someone will eventually see you. But sometimes they don't. And sometimes they do and still choose to look away. I spent years believing that my strength made me less deserving of softness, that because I didn't ask for help, I didn't need it. That being the one who figures it out meant I should always be the one to give and never the one to receive. But that's not love, that's convenience dressed up as care. Letting go wasn't sudden. It was slow, like peeling off a layer you thought was skin only to realize it was something someone else had wrapped around you. I used to stare at an old planner filled with goals I never shared, pages full of deadlines, budgets, checklists, things that felt important because they came from me, but no one asked, no one clapped, no one even knew. And still I built. Not because I had something to prove, but because building was how I survived. That planner still sits in a drawer. Most of those goals are crossed out now. Not because they didn't matter, but because I grew past them. Right beside it, I keep a photo. It's not of my family. It's of me taken by a friend during my first month living alone in Boston. I'm on a park bench holding a cup of coffee, smiling at nothing in particular. I look peaceful. I didn't realize it then, but that was the first photo of me not performing, not posturing for anyone's approval. Just me being. That's what I hold on to now. Not the forged signatures, not the letters that never came, not even the apology I'll never get. What I hold on to is the version of me that kept walking quietly, intentionally, and without waiting for someone to hand her permission. You don't need revenge, you don't need them to understand, and you don't need to prove that you were the better person. You just need to be the free one. The one who stopped chasing clarity from people who only offered noise. The one who chose peace over proximity. And if you're still in that in-between space, still wondering if you're overreacting, if maybe you're the problem, if maybe your silence is the reason they forgot, you ask yourself this. What would change if you stopped expecting them to see you and started seeing yourself? Because the moment you do, everything shifts. You realize family isn't defined by names on a tree, it's defined by absence of harm. And once you unlearn the version of love that demanded your invisibility, you can start writing a story that finally includes you at the center. Not temporary, not convenient, just whole. The building is quiet when I step into the hallway. Late afternoon in Boston filters through the windows as pale gray light softening the sharp lines of the legal offices and turning the glass doors gold around the edges. The carpet underfoot mutes the sound of my heels. My hand still holds the manila folder from Nora's office, but it's light now. The weight is gone. I walk slowly, not because I'm tired, but because there's no need to rush. Everything that needed to be said has been filed, sealed, and closed. The last signatures were added 15 minutes ago. The final filings went through without question. There are no more calls to make, no more explanations to prepare. The story is done. At the end of the hall, the elevator doors wait. Closed. Polished steel with a brushed finish. I press the button and hear the soft ding of machinery coming to life behind them. I glance to my left. A young woman stands in the corner. Early 20s, maybe. A loose ponytail. Jacket one size too large, sleeves rolled once at the cuff. She's holding a white envelope in both hands, edges creased from where her fingers keep pressing. Her eyes scan the floor tiles, then the walls, then the folder clutched against my side. She doesn't speak. But I know that look. The one that says something's broken and I've come to see what it'll cost to fix it. I've worn that same expression. She meets my eyes for half a second, then looks away, shifting her weight. The elevator chimes, the doors open. I step inside alone. The panel lights up with a quiet glow. In the mirrored wall beside me, my reflection is calm. Not smiling, not hollow, just whole. There's no more flicker of defense in my posture, no trace of urgency in the way I stand. Just breath, just stillness. The girl stays outside. She doesn't follow. Maybe it's not her time yet. Maybe this is her beginning. I don't offer advice. I don't tell her it'll get better. I just nod barely and she sees it. Her shoulders relax a fraction. The doors slide closed between us. And that's it. No fanfare, no final words, no score swelling in the background. Just the sound of quiet victory. One floor at a time. Jessica's story is a reminder that not all betrayals are loud. Some unfold in the quiet behind closed doors under the weight of expectations and silence. She wasn't the chosen one. She wasn't celebrated or protected, but she built a life anyway, alone, resilient, and unwavering. When her family crossed a line, she didn't scream. She didn't beg. She moved with clarity, using truth and evidence as her voice. In choosing herself, she redefined what family and loyalty truly mean. If you've ever felt invisible, used, or counted on only when it was convenient, know that strength can look like walking away without anger. It can look like peace, like starting over, like choosing freedom. If Jessica's journey spoke to something in you, leave a comment. Share your story and follow this channel for more real stories of quiet strength and transformation. You're not alone.